Mike. Hey, congratulations on your new documentary, The Pitch.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So it is a fascinating documentary. I do see the importance of it here in the 21st century because, healthcare is always evolving, always changing, and we should be in the forefront of healthcare. But we have to hear it first is what sparked you to do this documentary in the first place?
Well, this is a sequel of sorts to Two Errors Human, which was a patient safety documentary we made in 2018. And that film started because my father was the director of the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality and he passed away in 2002. But his real life's work was improving the quality and reliability of healthcare across the nation. And it was really on the radar in the late 90s when a report also called Two Errors Human had come out and told people that a lot of people were dying from medical error. And so I was making a film. I was trying to think about what's the next project to do, I realized, okay, every year I think I see the agency is possibly going to be defunded, and we should do a documentary about that, show people what it does. And that turned into a big documentary that was a feature film about patient safety and medical harm and how big this problem is, but also how much is going on behind the scenes to fix it. And we found that it was well received by healthcare and the public alike. And we screened it over 300 times across 12 countries, all over the place. People were receiving it so well, and we wanted to keep doing work in this space. And the Jewish Healthcare Foundation reached out to us about their pursuit of a documentary about technology's role in patient safety. And we thought, what a perfect chance to continue the story and show people how these innovations and technologies that we're starting to become more familiar with today are actually impacting healthcare and making it safer, and how healthcare can learn from other industries that are doing this in a more elaborate way to get better, continue striving for excellence, and continue looking to be, safer as we all expect it to be.
Well said. Now, there must have been countless of, health technologies out there that could have been in consideration. It could have been, dozens, hundreds, who knows? But how do you narrow it down to the subjects for your documentary?
That's tough. Again, with our previous film, we spent 3 years exploring topics and interviewing tons of people who are at the head of this work. With this, we decided to spend 1 year making it and be real focused and streamlined. We made an outline of the film we wanted to see and tried to execute that the best we could. But when you make a documentary, you have to follow the story. You have to listen to the interviews and think about what they're saying and follow that lead. And in doing so, we discovered that really the story is not just showing people cool technology, right? And that's kind of easy to do, but actually showing people that there's a tremendous uphill climb for innovators to break into medicine with new ideas. And so we used that process to find Ratam, who is the main sort of heart and soul of our film, and follow him on his journey of creating a startup at just 22 years old using machine learning tools to detect high risk pregnancies at the earliest stage of the pregnancy rather than waiting until they give birth, which is when a lot of hospitals are checking these things. And we realized that the story that's interesting is, okay, like, what does it actually look like when an innovator is trying to do something like this? Because we don't see that story every day. So as a filmmaker, I think we have the opportunity to show people a world they can't see on their own. So only showing people what they already see in headlines about how bad and dangerous a healthcare error can be. Why don't we take this chance to show people what it looks like behind the scenes when people are doing the work to actually make it safer? And so we really harnessed that idea and focused on that with the film.
What are the commonalities of that uphill climb that all these far different tech companies, health tech companies, are facing?
It's interesting because if you ask each one, they might say something different. But there are a lot of similarities. And one of them is you have to be a different person for each audience. And, we tap into this into the film a bit, and Ratam talks about it. But when he's talking to a healthcare administrator or executive of a hospital, he has to really explain what's the return on that investment. Why should they put money into this new idea or this new tool? How is it going to benefit them in the bottom line? And when he's talking to a clinician, he's got to explain how this works within their workflow. How are they going to use the tool, and how is it going to help them do a better job of delivering safe care? And then when he's talking to investors or he's at a pitch competition, he's got to talk about, you know, even bigger picture things, and talk about real complicated entrepreneurship ideas that I can't even really regurgitate. I have to let him do it for me. It seems like a really tough task. And, you know, as a filmmaker, you sort of have your own little mini business when you make a film. So I understand it to some extent, but it's amazing to see just how much goes into trying to break into medicine, because on top of all those things, then you've got this final boss, so to speak, of regulatory restrictions that are there to protect patients from ideas that are sort of still being figured out, so that by the time as a patient I experience a new tool that's making healthcare better, it's gone through every possible rigorous test to make sure that it does what it's supposed to do and makes healthcare safer, not just more complicated.
Now, a testament to your documentary storytelling. I find this, your storytelling method very interesting. But one of the things that proves difficult, as particularly for healthcare documentaries, are the medical jargons. So, as a documentary filmmaker yourself, how did you want to filter this, to put everything, what we say, in layman's terms?
It's a funny parallel because it all matters of who your audience is, and sometimes your audience is the general public, and you really do want to make sure that you see yourself as a member of the general public. And I don't have a medical background. I didn't go to medical school. I never studied any of that. I played baseball, and then I became a filmmaker. So I can see the film as a layman, right? I edit the film as well, so I'm putting the pieces together and watching it as we go, thinking, do I understand this? And if I don't understand it, is there a reason why I should be hearing it? And at the same time, I know that a film like this can make a significant impact by actually being shown to clinicians and being shown to healthcare executives. And if it's too, minimized, they might not really hear it. They might be looking and listening for things that they want to hear. And so I think if you treat it as every person who sees the film is a human being first, and tap into the heart and soul of what they want to understand about the issue, where's the humanity of it, I think that's the best way to navigate around medical jargon. Because yeah, in the film, even a couple times, people say words I don't understand. But in the context of the scene, you sort of understand the importance of what they're saying. It doesn't necessarily matter what these abbreviations might mean. You understand there's urgency and that there's confusion, or that there's something going on that shouldn't be happening. And I think when you tell a story, there's an opening to do both. But at the end of the day, like, yeah, I'm having a lot of conversations with people about these topics where there's 8 acronyms in one paragraph. And I try to avoid that as much as I can when telling a story.
It's actually funny that you totally answered why the title, the pitch, and how you started off with baseball at the beginning, because you personally have played baseball, and it sounds like you are a lover of baseball yourself too.
Yeah, I am. But what's interesting is we actually had a much more robust baseball analogy built into the original plans of the film, and we didn't have an opportunity to do it for many reasons. It's just tough to put that on screen. I think when you go to a baseball field, if you watch in any sport really, you'll see how technology is taking over, right? From replays to the way a baseball player, for example, will strike out, and before they even get to show them on screen, they're already in the dugout watching a replay of that at bat on an iPad to figure out how to improve and do better on the next one. Imagine if that was happening in healthcare, right? Because it doesn't. They don't have time to reflect. And I think that's something that healthcare can learn from sports, of how to get better and how to improve from your mistakes. And and know that you won't be perfect, but that there's a chance to review and reflect and think about how to get better. That was one of the reasons I really wanted to explore it in the film. And I wish I got to do more, but anytime I get a chance to talk about the film or patient safety, I'll take every chance I can to bring that analogy back into baseball.
Now, one of the most fascinating topics that you actually brought up is the usage of artificial intelligence. And younger generations are very receptive to embrace the idea. Older generations are very, how can you say, kind of conservative towards it. Sort of the if if it ain't broke, don't fix it. How did you want to approach that and introduce that, and not to make like technology a scary thought that just overturns what they're used to?
It's hard to tell the story of new technology without addressing the fear and the uncertainty. One of the reasons why AI and you know ChatGPT and all these things became a hot topic was because of the risk that comes with it. Right? It's cool and interesting and solves problems that are important and even ones that aren't, but when they're applied incorrectly and with the wrong intent, bad things can happen, right? And in healthcare, bad things means people get hurt or even die. And so hesitancy is good. Hesitancy makes you stop and think, is this the right answer? But if you go too far with that, you stifle growth and you restrict the opportunity to get better. And I think healthcare is an industry that is steeped in tradition. It's taught by the generation before you, right? And so it's hard to it's hard to make progress. It's hard to do anything that's new because still learning from the tools that were taught 25, 45 years ago. But as people and patients become more familiar with technology, and then as the next generation of clinicians walk into a hospital expecting it to be more technologically advanced because they haven't lived a day in their lives where iPhones didn't exist, we're going to see these changes happening faster and faster and faster. And I don't think you can avoid it anymore. And if you're thinking like somebody from the 1970s, you're going to be left behind in 2030. And I think that's why it's so important for films like this to exist, to just show that this is the world we live in now, and that good things happen when the right people put their ideas and their skills and their resources in the right place to solve problems that are not yet being solved. We see it in other industries like car industry, aviation. I mean, can be used to make things safer, not to just make them cooler or faster.
So true, so true. Well, Mike, let me wrap it up with one last question with you. As audiences out everywhere have a chance to watch the pitch, what is the one most important take you hope they walk away with after watching your film?
Well, I think as a patient, when you enter the healthcare system, it's scary, and you assume a lot of trust with your clinician. Sometimes they're your primary, who you've known possibly your whole life, and sometimes they're an emergency tech who you've never known a second of your life. But what patients don't understand often is that they have a role that they can play. And it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to ask, what are we doing here? What's happening? And when you're not in that really stressful moment of receiving care, you still have an opportunity to reach out to your hospital and say, what are you doing to prioritize safety? What are you doing to incorporate new technology to modernize your hospital? And hopefully when people see the examples in our film, they'll have a clear sense of what those are, from small innovations like utilizing a VR headset to reduce the risk of anesthesia, all the way up to command centers, which are big, elaborate rooms with multiple screens, identifying every single piece of data that's coming through the hospital within 4 seconds. So there's a lot, but it's not just like a big, massive problem that you don't have a role in. Speak up, step up, and share the information that you saw so that people can all be on the same page. And on the other side, to briefly tap into one thing, is I think documentaries have a tendency to skew in the fear and the scary and the oh, you're going to die if you go to the hospital topics. I think if you focus on what can happen when people do good work with good intentions, and when they put their efforts towards making healthcare safer, amazing things can happen. And without seeing it and without seeing those success stories, it's very hard to inspire people who are skeptical to actually take on that new idea or to invest in that innovation. So I hope people will see that in the film as well, and not just be scared of healthcare's fallibility, but also be inspired by the possibilities.
Well said. Well said. Well, Mike, thank you very much for speaking to us about your new documentary. The pitch
Thank you.
is very essential here for our new decade, new century, and the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.